Hello and welcome to Media Dialogues with Storyboard 18. Today's conversation is unlike any other. This is a special tribute episode, 1 year since we lost Ratan Tata, a man who was more than an industrialist, more than a chairman, more than the steward of one of India's most respected business groups. He was in so many ways the nation's conscience. Ratan Tata's legacy is not written only in balance sheets or the global acquisitions. It lives in the trust he built, the quiet dignity with which he led, and the compassion he showed when the world wasn't looking. He redefined what it meant to lead with courage, humility, and an unwavering moral compass. As we reflect on what his life and work continue to mean for India in these tumultuous times and for a new generation of leaders, I am joined by someone who knew him closely. Suhel Seth, brand and business leader, commentator, advisor, and someone who has often said that Ratan Tata was not just a business icon, but a human being who belonged to every Indian. Together, we revisit the man behind the legend and explore the lessons of his life for all of us, especially for those shaping the future of business and leadership in India. Hello and welcome to the studio again, Suhel. I'm so glad to have you here with me today. And
Thank you.
Especially for this very special episode about Mr. Tata. And you, of course, knew him very closely, knew him very well. You knew the man behind the leader, the chairman. Let's get straight into it, starting with, your tribute when you said that he had no family of his own, yet every Indian was a member of his family. How did Mr. Tata cultivate that sense of belonging, especially in these times? How would you reflect on how he cultivated, like I said, that sense of belonging?
So I must say, and this is not to, indulge in mutual flattery, but I loved your opening, and I would never use the word cultivate in that sense, because nothing about R&T was ever pretentious. It was who he was. A lot of people, when they're in business, when they're out there, they perhaps want to project a certain image. They want to talk about themselves or be talked about in a certain way. Mr. Tata didn't care. He didn't care for three reasons. Number one, he was an extremely self-aware person. B, he was very confident. And C, his moral compass, as you alluded to in your opening remarks, was always perfectly aligned. The clarity in his mind was also reflected in the way he conducted business. But that clarity was born out of an imprint of trusteeship. Mr. Tata always said to whoever cared to listen that I'm not the chairman of Tata Trust or before that Tata Sons alone. I'm also a trustee. And I'm a trustee, I'm a custodian of that torch whose flame was lit by Jamshedji Nasirwanji Tata. And that's what my business is, to make sure A, the flame is never extinguished, B, never compromised, and C, is always driven by the same set of values that the founders had. And their values were summed up in one sentence, that the purpose of business is to ensure that every member of society leads a better life than he or she was leading before.
You can't, of course, not everyone can be a Mr. Tata. Not everyone can have that moral compass that we speak of, the ethics that came with his style of leadership. But if you were to reflect on how maybe leaders today can channel some of that, is there a way to do it if it's not inherent to you?
See, he inherited a legacy that was already well established. So everyone thinks it's easy. Actually, it's more dangerous, because even one slip can, make everything fall. So for those who believe that, he was a Tata and the Tatas were always known for trust. No, because the times are changing. Please remember that when Mr. Tata took over in 1992, there was no social media. But by the time he passed away on October 9, 2024, but if you saw Mr. Tata's social feed, it was about dogs. It was about humanity. It was about people. It was never about business. It was never about, profit and loss. So in his book, the ultimate profit that a company can make is by providing lives of dignity to their employees and, more importantly, to the community they serve. And he was largely instrumental in keeping the Tata credo alive in terms of giving back. And that's an important thing. And remember, now you have Noel. Tata as Chairman Tata Trust, and you have N. Chandrasekaran as Chairman Tata Sons. But for a long time, Mr. Tata played both roles. So there was philanthropy, and then there was the business. And Mr. Tata never used the word CSR. CSR, even to my mind, is an abused term. You know, it's almost as if you have to do it, and therefore you do it. But philanthropy is more out of heart. CSR is more out of mandate. And that's the difference that Mr. Tata always believed in. I still remember there was an interview that he had with The Economist, who was starting a page on, you know, global leaders. And I remember the ending, because the last question, I think it was Simon Long who was interviewing him, and he says, Mr. Tata, what is your definition of success? And he said, a good night's sleep. Normally, you would expect someone to wax eloquent about, oh, I want to see my country, I want to see this, I want to see. And then when Simon Long left the room, I asked Mr. Tata, I said, what do you mean? He says, if you harm no one, if there is no malice, you've done your job with the highest integrity, you will sleep well. If there is even an iota of issues within that framework, you won't.
So well said. You mentioned dogs. We know his love for animals, dogs especially. We know what he did for animal welfare. How did you all bond on your common love for dogs? I know that you have a bunch of
we have 9.
You have furry friends as well. So how did you bond over that?
So I loved it because Goa, so he had his dogs, Tito and Tango, and then both passed away. I still remember Prince Charles, now King Charles, wanted to give him the Lifetime Achievement Award. It was, I think, February the 5th, 2017 or 18. And I reached London and Mr. Tata said, so I had 11 missed calls from him. So I said, what happened? He says, oh, you know, Tango's unwell. So I said, fine. So he says, no, I don't want to leave him alone. So would you apologize to Prince Charles? I said, Mr. Tata, he's called people from all over the world. And this is your felicitation. It's, you know, it's not an event. So he says, no, he'll understand. When I told Prince Charles that, for a moment, he looked absolutely aghast. And then he burst into a smile and he says, that's a man. And Mummy would be so happy because the Queen was a great dog lover. And he had a dog, that was still there, called Goa. Goa was the most punctual person in the Tata family. He would leave Bombay House exactly at 8:45 every morning. And he would then walk across to Elphinstone and wait outside the elevator below for Mr. Tata to come. And when Mr. Tata went to his office, so there was Mr. Tata's desk, 3 chairs, then there was a sofa, an L-shaped sofa. Mr. Tata always sat on this side. The visitor sat here, but on the left of his seat was always a seat reserved for Goa. I think Goa has attended more meetings of Tata Trust than some of the trustees. I think he's been a great contributor to the Tata story. And it's amazing. In fact, when his body was lying in state at the NCPA, it was Goa who was brought in. And, you know, look, I'm a great believer, Delshad, that if you can't love the voiceless, you can't love anyone. In my book, there are 2 golden rules. Your love for parents and your love for dogs or any animal has to be unconditional because so is their love. And if you can't love these people, then what's life worth living?
I would just wonder sometimes, you know, people coming into that office and seeing Mr. Tata and Goa there, what would their reactions be? Especially people unfamiliar maybe with that kind of affection and feel. I mean, that figure sitting there with Goa while you're talking business, you know, of global proportions.
But look at what it does, Dilshad. Think about it from a really, not a branding, from a human angle.
Yeah.
You suddenly see one of the most powerful men in the world of business in India, while talking about a mega acquisition or a mega merger, stroking Goa and playing with him, you immediately humanize. Yes. The message that a visitor gets is, this man is so human, he's so decent. You know, there's no arrogance, there's no power, and that is who he was. In fact, if you remember, in 2008, Mamata Banerjee went on the rampage qua Singur. And Mr. Tata famously said, he says, I'm that kind of person that you can hold a gun to my head. You either shoot or walk away, but I'm not going to move. And then, as you know, the Nano moved out. Then it went to Gujarat. But Mr. Tata was unwavering. He did not budge. And many years later, so we are talking 17 years later, the Tata Sons chairman, in this case Chandra, went and met Mamata Banerjee. That tells you about the group and the values it holds dear. And Mr. Tata said, when people said, oh, you could have gone to court, you could have, he says, no, I don't want to be somewhere where I'm not welcome.
Mattered to him.
Yeah, and on your channel, when we did the conversation, R&T and I, he said, and he repeated, he says, what I loved about Narendra Modi, who was then the chief minister, is he gave a home to Nano. And a home to Nano meant fulfilling the aspirations of all those people who couldn't afford expensive cars. Because his entire thrust of the Nano was built when he saw a family of 4 drenched in Mumbai rains on a scooter. And he says, why can't we build a car in India under $1 lakh? And then I can tell you, but without mentioning names, all the car companies, especially one, created the kind of nuisance and the lobbying that went along and the plants that were inserted in papers and TV channels against the Nano. It is unbelievable how some of these car companies actually worked against India and Indians. The Nano was not being built for Ratan Tata. It was being built for every Indian who can afford and must afford a car.
And it was always about doing the right thing, even if it cost him a lot.
And it cost him a lot.
It cost him a lot.
Absolutely.
About that, did he have any regrets with that aspect of how he handled some of the situations that happened in his lifetime?
No. So let's try and explore to the best of our abilities. He was not a man who would nurse a regret. And in many ways, and I used to joke, I said, you're like George W. Bush Jr. Because George W. Bush, after he demitted office, said, he says, I may have made the wrong decisions, but those decisions were made with the right intent. The decision can be wrong in hindsight. You know, in hindsight, everyone is incorrect. So I think R&T was of that mold. He never had regrets, but he always had a feeling that perhaps I should have judged this better, or I should have judged this human being better. And remember one thing, other than Melli Mistry, or you know, one or two of us, if we can even claim to be his friends, R&T was not close to people. Not because he wasn't close, but R&T was an extremely shy person. And when I say shy, I mean shy.
Give me an example of how shy he could be.
So if you ever, so there were many evenings. So I still remember there was an evening in London and there's a Chinese restaurant called Kai on South Audley Street. And I still remember there was Melli, R&T, me. The dinner got over and, you know, his car was there and he always sat in the front in the car. And there was a family, grandfather, son, grandchildren, and their spouses. And the grandfather comes to me, he says, "Inke na pair chune hain." I said, he's already sat down in the car. He says, nahi. Grandfather, he must have been about 87, 88 years old. So I told R&T. R&T came out and he bent and he says, no, please don't do this to me. And I'm sorry to sound, and tears were welled up in everyone's eyes, saying, oh my God. He was painfully shy, but he was a great prankster. He had a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, jokes apart and you know, he would say, oh, this person, and he was a great mimic. So there was never a dull moment with him. Plus, look at the man's interests here. I remember the last time, so my wife Lakshmi, and that time our daughter was 3 years old, or 3 years old. And last year she was obviously 4. And she would always call him Mr. Tata. So I remember we went from Melly's house, office to Halakai, to R&D's residence. And Mr. Tata could be childlike with children. He could be leader-like with leaders. He tells Gayatri, he says, did Melly give you anything? She says, yeah, chocolate. Kit Kat, I'm sure. So she says, yeah, give it to me. And I have it on video, the exchanging thing. And Mr. Tata kept the chocolate. So Gayatri says, it's a gift for you. And October died when he passed away. So Gayatri asked me, he says, Papa, where are you going? I said, Bombay, Mr. Tata is no more. And she says, but he told me he'll give me some Kit Kat. Children don't remember these things. And I told her, I said, you know, you're blessed to have met him, to have even, you know, whatever it was, to play with him. So that human quality, that humanism in him was remarkable. And I remember, Delshad, when the body was lying in state at NCPA, Devan Bharati, who was then the Joint Commissioner of Police, was asking someone, and I just overheard saying, oh, you know, what is the bandobast we need to do? And I butted in saying that you can't imagine the outpouring of grief today. And there were about 6,000 people outside NCPA. There were about, what, 10, 12,000 people outside the crematorium. And a week later, the Taj driver told me, he says, हमारे घर में 2 दिन से चूल्हा नहीं जला. Which is why I said that India and every Indian thought they'd lost a family member. And I don't think in my living memory, other than Nehru's funeral, I've seen such outpouring of genuine grief. You know, at times people come, if it's a political leader, the party unites, people come, blah, blah, blah. But this was just unreal. In fact, I even said to my wife, I said, you know, none of us had imagined the impact he's created, which is why I always say that the one thing Ratan Tata did was he wore humanity very lightly on his shoulders. It was effortless. It was from within. It wasn't tutored, it wasn't calibrated, it wasn't meant to give a great impression. And that's who he was. And look at the fact that, you know, a lot of business leaders worry about legacy, worry about what will people say. Couldn't be bothered because he was so self-assured. And a lot of people ask me, oh, but you know, a bachelor, blah, blah, blah. But he always believed that his first family was his family of the Tata, the House of Tata. And the larger family was every Indian. Look at what he did with cancer care. He didn't need to do it. The Tatas had already created Tata Memorial. And when the first Tata Cancer Center came up in Calcutta, he ensured that alongside the cancer center, there was a dormitory. And his logic was people in India, when they come from villages for treatment, the whole family comes. So where will the family stay? You know, people don't know. He launched a program under Tata Trust with Google called Internet Sathi. It was only aimed at rural women folk who could then access the internet. He says that is empowerment. So, I mean, it was...
Numerous examples. And that point about there being genuine grief.
It was unbelievable.
And it was across, it was not just, you know, the world of business and other business leaders, but it was just regular folks. And
the one thing that people don't know, I mean, some obviously do who were close to him, R&T was the most connected human being in India and of Indian origin. Heads of state, royalty, great business minds, thinkers, they didn't respect him, they loved him. You know, whether it was Obama who came here on a state visit, whether it was George W. Bush, whether when he was in the US, look at his legendary relationship with Amarnath Bose, who also sadly is no more, of Bose Electronics. I mean, these were great relationships. People don't know that R&T sat on the board of JP Morgan for the longest time. And I remember one evening he says, there's a dinner at the Imperial in Delhi, you come as my +1. I said, sure. And we're sitting at this table. One felt so insignificant and small. And you have Eric Schmidt, Henry Kissinger, R&T, Jamie Dimon, and everyone was only waiting to hear what R&T said. But the beauty about R&T was he said so little, but meant so much.
And again, that effortlessness that came with the way he spoke as well, and being a good listener.
Outstanding listener. And see his relationships. His relationships were long-standing.
Yeah.
And he...
And valued.
And valued. You know, I remember some gallbladder stones fell into my pancreas, blah, 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 blah. And he sends me a long WhatsApp message. And he's saying, you know, why didn't you tell me that this had happened? And it had happened. Like, why didn't you tell me this? I value you as a friend, blah, 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 blah. Didn't need to. You could have just said, okay, are you well? Are you not well? R&T always went that extra mile. He never, ever had anyone carry his bags at an airport. He would always sit in the front of the car. He would make it a point to thank everyone in every hotel or every restaurant. But that's who he was. And people, and you're right, people would assume that he's doing it for effect. He didn't need to. See, the problem is that Ratan Tata became Ratan Tata by year 2000. So his firmness and his decisiveness in business was clearly visible when he got rid of the satraps. People knew that this is a tough guy.
Not to be taken lightly.
Not to be taken lightly.
I will ask you, I'll ask you one more question. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, there's tremendous, I mean, we can talk about his virtues. And I don't think there was any question about whether it was for effect or not. I think it came out pretty, it was very clear that it was just genuine. It was the way he was. But he was human at the end of the day. And you said that he never nursed any regrets. But did he ever nurse any grudges?
No. He nursed a point of view. And look, a lot has been said. I said it once on your program, I think. What was the last thing that happened in his life which upset him? It was Cyrus Mistry. Cyrus is dead, and may God bless his soul. What were the issues? And no one has talked about them, Delshad, and let me tell you what the issues were. There were 4 things. So the announcement of Cyrus taking over as chairman was made in 2011. And he was to take over on December 28, 2012, when R&T turned 75. This happened after a global search. A lot of candidates were interviewed. The late Anshu Jain, Arun Sareen, John Mack, blah, blah, blah. 4 conditions or 4 things were laid out for Cyrus. Number 1, the renunciation of his Irish citizenship. Number 2, the supremacy of the board. Number 3, no related party transactions. And number 4, that the Tata Sons chairman plus 1 more director from Tata Sons would be on each operating board, you know, like Tata Steel, blah, blah, blah. Why? So that it gives comfort for neutrality and a balanced point of view. Let's say if the chairman of Tata Sons is the only Tata Sons director on, let's say, Tata Steel, then, you know, it's not all that clear, or there's no clarity or neutrality or whatever it is. These 4 conditions, for whatever reason, and God bless his soul, as I said, weren't met. What people don't know, and this, you know, he's also sadly not with us anymore. April 16, 2016, it was a Sunday, and I was with him, and Mr. Tata says, oh, you know, tomorrow the Financial Times is publishing an article. And I got an email saying that it's been planted by, I said, yeah, Lionel Barber's my friend, we'll call him on and put him on speaker. And Lionel, being typical British, he says, darling, we're not a nursery, we're a newspaper. We don't do plants. So it was clear where the article was fed. The other thing that I have a problem, Mr. Tata never mentioned it, was every time there was a business issue, instead of resolving it, Cyrus would revert to a phrase called legacy hotspots. Now, Cyrus came on the board of Tata Sons in 2006. So from 2006 to 2012, you've been privy to every board decision. It's not come out of thin air. Why did you not object? You didn't want to. My feeling is that Cyrus, to be fair, surrounded himself with 4 people, and I don't want to name them because insignificant, which became the group executive committee. And those guys were uncontrollable. R.K. Krishna Kumar, Mr. Krishna Kumar, on September 7, 2016, spoke to Cyrus, saying there are issues with RPTs, with related party transactions, blah, blah, blah. There was an issue with a power company, again, which I will not name, which Tata Power had to, I don't know the details. I mean, I know the details, but I'm not going to talk about them. And everyone says, oh, R&T got rid of. No. The Tata Sons board lost confidence. And please remember, the Tata Sons board told Cyrus that please continue, but not as chairman. October 24, 2016, we're at Elphinstone, where R&T used to sit. And I promise you, Delshad, I've done 167 plays. I know a thing or two about body language. The anguish in the man was palpable. And he sat down and drafted 2 letters. One to all the employees, I mean the group colleagues, and one to the Prime Minister. Saying that, you know, the board has lost confidence, blah, 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 blah. But what happened the next day? On Tuesday, October 25, a 9-page letter is released to the media by Cyrus, making some of the most vile personal allegations, to my mind. And again, I say, you know, Cyrus may have his reasons, whatever they were. In 2017, September, October, on your channel, on CNBC, R&T agreed to do a conversation with me. No script, no text, nothing, no pre-read. And he only said one thing. He says, I want it to be about our country, and I want it to be about our people. There was not one word mentioned on Cyrus. Which is why I say, if there was rancor, it could have slipped in.
Yes.
After October 24, 2016, till he passed, he never mentioned the word Cyrus in a reputative way. Never. What did the House of Tata do? They followed due process. They went through the NCLT, NCLAT, Supreme Court. Then there was a review petition when Ramanna was the Chief Justice of India. The review petition was also thrown out by the Supreme Court. I mean, people have to understand. And R&T, so R&T takes over on October 24, 2016, Jan 10, 2017, Chandra is invited, and Chandra takes over in February, February 12 or February 13. So where was this thing that people were saying, oh, he wanted control? He never wanted control. I mean, he announced 75 as the stepping down age himself.
Right.
So if he wanted control and if he wanted power, he would have never announced that date. I mean, the age.
When Mr. Mistry passed, what did he feel? Were you sort of privy to his emotions during that time?
He felt bad. He felt terrible. You know, some stupid people made the comment, oh, he hasn't sent a condolence note, he hasn't gone to this thing. He wasn't going anywhere because, please remember, he had just come back from a surgery. So his non-attendance at Cyrus's funeral or thing was blown out of proportion.
But all aspects of his personal life were, were in a sense debated on or speculated on, whether it's his personal relationships, family, marital status, all of those things. Did it ever bother him?
No. But as I said, he was self-assured.
Absolutely.
So he didn't care. And you know, there's a lot of rubbish that was said, quite the family. Oh, he doesn't like this. But look at where the group is today, Delshad. you've got Noel N. Tata as Chairman Tata Trust. Decent, dignified. Who proposed his name? Melli K. Mistry. You've got Tata Sons run by Chandra, who has, multiplied the market cap insanely. Just another 5-year extension. I mean, you've got stability in the group. And by the way, we have to thank R&T for this. It was R&T after he stepped down as Chairman Tata Sons who decided that we will have the separation between the church and the state. That the Tata Trust chairman will never be chairman of Tata Sons and vice versa. So today, Noel, Venu Srinivasan and Vijay Singh as trust nominees sit on the board of Tata Sons, which is absolutely fair. So in terms of stability and in terms of continuity, there couldn't have been better people and better process.
Coming back to how his style of leadership, his that moral compass, the ethical stewardship, how would it be relevant for leaders today, Suhel? Because again, we are seeing India currently is this mixed bag of large firms. You have legacy firms, you have new age firms. There's an entire new breed of CEOs and founders and all these emerging leaders. Each one has their own style. What do you think people should be taking away from Mr. Tata's legacy?
Just one thing: be human. I mean, with due apology, Salman Khan, but be human. That will be the overriding aspect. And let me tell you, when R&T demitted office as Chairman Tata Sons, he set up R&T Investments. What were they doing? They were investing in all the startups. And R&T to those startups would always have only one piece of advice: do the right thing and stand by the right thing. And that's who he was. His last major contribution to India was the animal hospital. There again. Now, I can tell you that the Bombay Municipal Corporation, which is otherwise, a den of efficiency, obviously I'm being sarcastic, didn't give permission for some strange reason. And until the day of the inauguration, no one knew. And then there was an outpouring from politicians, from this, that, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it must open. You have an animal hospital where R&T personally steered it. And one thing where I think R&T maintained his connect with contemporariness, with relevance, was in his meeting with these young people, with these founders, with these startup kids. And he loved it.
How would that go?
Very well.
Any anecdotes, anything that you can...
Nobody.
Anything that struck...
In the sense, like whenever he met these people, they were always interested in, take a selfie, take this. He says, forget that. He says, take a selfie with your balance sheet when you do well. And look, he was a great prankster, as I said. So there was an issue, someone thought that whatever. And I still remember Hormuz Sarabji, another Matt Bawa. Hormuz went to his place and said, look, I'm going to gift you a Nano or an Indica. I think it was an Indica, amongst the first ones that came. And Hormuz and I have I think I'm 99% Bawa myself. So we have a pact where whenever we pick up the phone, we use an expletive, which is again a Parsi thing. So one day he gives the phone to R&T and R&T dials my number from Hormuz's number. So I said, yeah. He says, hi, this is Ratan. I said, I'm so sorry, Mr. Tata. It's from Hormuz's phone. He says, that's what I wanted to check. I mean, there have been crazy...
Give me some more that you can share. That prankster side of him, because I can't
so
imagine
again, this
that.
rascal, Hormuz Sarabji. So once we were at Hormuz's house, but now R&T is dead, so we can say it. So Hormuz had a guy called Shapur Kotwal, who was his colleague. So, and me being from theatre, so we decided that we will call up R&T and we will call up Shapur. So R&T would always pick up the phone himself. That time he was living in Bakhtavar, he wasn't in Halakai. And we called up R&T and then Hormuz tried to mimic. And he says, hello, this is Air Marshal Bhattacharya from the Indian Air Force Hindon Air Base. And we want to race the jet, some MiG or whatever, against the Nano and all. Mr. Tata says, oh, thank you for your call. It's a bit late. I don't want to disturb any of my colleagues, but may I call you tomorrow, please, if you give me your number? Then we called up Shapur Kotwal, and Shapur actually went to the Hindon Air Base, where Hormuz is an absolute rogue. So there were tons of pranks here. And as I said, he was a great mimic. He was a great, great mimic. Like, I mean, no names mentioned. So there was this particular guy who, before 2016, before the Cyrus thing, he was like, we should do this, we should do this, we should do this. And then one day Mr. Tata says, you know, Darwin was wrong. I said, why? He says, it can also happen backwards. I said, what? He says, evolution. I said, means? He says, have you ever seen a hawk turn into a dove? So he had deep statements.
Yeah, the sense of humor.
I mean, I can say it because I've told Puneet Chhatwal this, you know. So one day, he says, do you have your phone? I said, yeah. Do you have the India map? I said, yeah. Can you open it? I said, so I said, what are you doing? He says, I think when Puneet wakes up every morning, he does this, and we open a hotel. And by the way, Puneet's done a great job. But the point I'm making is, look at the way he would translate.
What his points?
Yeah, in a humorous manner.
How did he wear that identity, you know, of his life?
Very lightly.
His Parsi.
Very lightly. Okay, I think he's the only Parsi I know who's been more times to Tirupati than I can ever imagine. And KK used to take him there. Because KK was a devoutly religious person. And I remember that R&T would go very often to Tirupati. So R&T was
religious?
Never... No, he was not religious.
Spiritual? What would you call him?
I don't even think spiritual. He was just... You know, someone... Actually,
Curious?
this is a great question. I think it was so damn normal that we would want to put pegs because it's unimaginable to be so normal. But he was like, he wore everything like, I haven't seen him, you know, talk about, but I still remember there was a particular lady, Parsi lady, whose son is suffering from autism, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, she needed some help, qua the fees, and, you know, the trust.
Yeah.
So that way, his decency was enormous, but he wasn't biased towards Parsis. But he loved being a Parsi. And one thing I have to tell you, unlike a Parsi, he never drank and he would eat like a bird. It was a nightmare because you'd get 3 pieces of broccoli, 1 string of asparagus. And we would always joke, Melly and I, and Melly would have dinner with him almost every night if they were both in town. And whenever I was in town, and we go to Thai Pavilion, and Melly would say to me before, as we were walking in, Auntie was walking in ahead or behind, he'd say, boss, let's order. If we let him order, we will go back hungry. He was very picky, but he was not fussy. So if you gave him pomfrey instead of John Dory, he'd have it. But he was like, and very, very, what should I say, a very light eater. I mean, if
Not
you...
very Parsi of him.
Not at all. No drinking, very little to eat, not fastidious about food. So, I mean, that way he was...
I have a whole bunch of more questions, and I want to just get
Sure.
a few of these in, especially because these were you know, very sort of pivotal moments in the idea of Ratan Tata that we have, and one of them was, of course, when the terror attack happened in Mumbai, 26/11. Reflect on that time, Suhel. He was famously outside the Taj. You know, he parked himself there. He was with the victims, supporting the families. Again, it was not for the cameras. It was not for nothing. It was just the way he did it.
So here's what happened. He was living in Bakhtawar. There's a friend of mine and we were at the Taj. I mean, obviously in separate rooms. And we had gone, again, our love for food, we had gone to Bachi Karkaria's son's wedding reception at the Kolaba Agiari. And when I was coming back, I was told by a concierge called Satish Gaikwad at the main Taj saying that there's gunfire. I assume must be one of these jokers getting drunk, you know, because we're used to that in Delhi. Never imagined this would happen in Bombay. So he said, please don't come back to the hotel. I said, fine. We went to the president. There I called up KK. KK says, yeah, I've heard something like that. I'm on my way. R&T was told about this at about 10:30, 10:40. R&T said, I'm on my way. The cop said, no, he can't come because it's an ongoing
life
operation.
Situation, yeah.
He came. Karambir Kang, who lost his wife and kids, was the general manager. Abhijit Mukherjee was the head of the luxury business for the Taj. R&T and KK stood on the parapet opposite the Taj. So where we have the heritage wing entrance, the palace wing entrance, not there, but between the palace wing and the main entrance. And R&T was shattered. But again, let me tell you, his firmness of resolve. Again, you know, we've lost both of them. December the 8th, we got the hotel back to enter. And you had to enter from the rear. You know, where, like on the road behind, where Ali Ju and all is. So when it was KK, R&T, and there was smell of flesh. It was, but when we went to the heritage wing, and you went to the staircase, right on top, where Jamshedji's bust is, there was not one bullet on it. So KK, being spiritual, being religious, he says, the founder has protected us. Now, here's what happens. R&T then addresses the press. Bixen is on his side, KK is on his side, and he says, we may be hurt, but we will never be destroyed. Or some words there. And he says, we will build and rebuild the Taj to greater glory. Now, let me tell you what happens. Maybe around Jan or Feb, when the main wing, the tower wing, was kind of restored. But Wasabi and the Chambers Terrace had, you know, suffered a lot. And I remember a ramp was created, and every Taj employee walked the ramp, and R&T was there applauding because it was their courage.
Their courage, absolutely.
And guess what else R&T did? So that's what I'm telling you, he didn't ever hold grudges. Who was standing there at R&T's invitation? Ajit Kerkar. He'd been invited by R&T. R&T attended every funeral. It didn't matter whether the person died in Chabad House or at VT or at the Oberoi. He, in 5 days or 6 days after this, they created the Tata Public Welfare Trust. I mean, that's who he was. And every person who lost his life, whether employee or guest, their funeral was attended to by R&T. A. B. Every person who was injured, their treatment, again by R&T. And now let me tell you which no one knows. On that evening at Sea Lounge, the Unilever board was meeting. They escaped on a fire stairway from Sea Lounge. Paul Polman came back in March of the next year, and the Unilever board served the Taj employees by the poolside to thank them for saving their lives. And that's the spirit that R&T inculcated in people. You know, very few people die at their job or die for their job. You need a great leader, and who leads from the front, who's a visible example of leadership and courage. And that is what R&T was.
And do you think that exists today? We talk about crisis. In our last conversation, of course, we were talking about, you know, in moments of crisis, how leadership is, you know.
Look at Chandra, cut from the same cloth. June 12, 2025, a horrific crash happens. The crash happens at about 9:40 or 9:45 a.m., not exactly sure about the time. Chandra is on a plane to Ahmedabad. Without perhaps, you know, knowing all the intricate details, but there. Noel Tata a week later. Today, Chandra is monitoring every bit of help, oblique relief, oblique the trust that has been set up, you know, the AI 171 trust. That's leadership. Leadership is not about telling people I've done the right thing,
It's about doing it.
but doing it and people then surmising. You know, let the people decide whether you've done the right thing. And see what Chandra has done post that. So I've always said, even in the discussion that we had, when you asked about the Tata group and all, I said, Chandra is cut from the same cloth because remember, he started at the Tatas.
Yes.
So he's a Tata lifer. If he doesn't know the value system, who else will?
What were some of your favorite memories of Mr. Tata? That, you know, maybe embodied, that maybe, you know, were the best image of him, the image that you want to retain as well in your mind, and not the stuff that we know and not the stuff that we've always heard of him, his morality, his ethics.
Where he sat down and wrote a message to the security guard at Taj Mahal Palace, Bombay, saying, thank you for looking after my dear friend. The friend was a dog who was getting drenched. And this security guard held up an umbrella. And now, Delshad, no Taj hotel can refuse a pet. Strays are welcome. In fact, there's a sign in the driveway, in the porch of the Taj, saying, dogs are our guests as well. Please don't bother them. There's also a sign to, you know, dog haters that, you know, you may have your issues, but they are family. You know, it's when you do something which no one wants you to, or which is not expected of you, or which no one imagines you will do, that sticks in your mind. I mean, can you imagine that security guard getting a message from Ratan Tata saying that, you know, thank you, written in his own hand? I mean, that should tell you a thing or two about real men.
Leadership.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But again, I'm just trying to sort of relate to current times and current leadership. Keeping the Tata group, the House of Tata aside and the leadership there, do you see that? Do you see that in, and I'm not talking about maybe leadership of Mr. Tata's generation, but beyond that, newer generations.
Why do we need another Ratan Tata? We need individuals in their own mold who are quietly changing. Not because I'm sitting at CNBC, but look at what Mukesh has done. I mean, look at what the Kamath brothers have done. Look at what BML Munjal did with Hero. We've got great stories. Look at what Dr. Pratap Reddy did with Apollo Hospitals. So there is no dearth of stories. But the legendary status also happens with both time and a generational shift. And people are respecting that. Whereas with a Mukesh Ambani or a Dr. Pratap Reddy or even young people like the Kamath brothers or, you know, the person who set up Mama Earth or whatever it is, people are actually going out and warming up to these people because these people represent, to my mind, something that's going to be important. And I'm a great optimist, Delshad, and I'm a great believer that India will constantly throw up great leaders. We will throw up great leaders in politics, in industry. Yes, the good thing is Ratan Tata walked amongst us. So it's an easily pickable example. It's an example which can easily be replicated. So we are blessed. But I don't want anyone to be like Ratan Tata because there will be no Ratan Tata. And, you know, very interestingly that you mentioned this, Chandra, after Air India, the horrific crash, gave an interview to a news channel. You know what he said? He says, I can never be JRD and I can never be Ratan. I can only be myself. But I will be myself guided by the principles of the founders. Where there was Jamshedji and then the turning point with Durab. And that's what he said. So I don't want another Ratan Tata. Because you can't clone a Ratan Tata. Because you may clone the body, you can never clone the soul.
True.
And for him, his soul was superior to both body and mind. And as we know, in many religious books, the body shall wither, but the soul remains undying. And it is that undying soul of Ratan Tata that we must celebrate every day. So in many ways, October 9, 2024 was a day of mourning. It was also a day of quiet celebration. That you had amidst you a man who walked so gently. And to paraphrase the end of Julius Caesar, where Mark Antony says, and I will paraphrase, that this was the noblest Indian of them all. The elements so mixed in him that nature might stand up and say to all the world, this was a man. And that's Ratan Naval Tata.
Lovely. Lovely. I want to ask you this because it's currently, we spoke about his run-ins with politicians, his conversations with global leaders. How do you think he would react to some of the things that are happening right now between the India and the US, especially with Donald Trump and the tariffs? I mean, right now the conversation is a lot about how do you make India far more resilient.
I think it's a brilliant question. It's a brilliant question. If Ratan Tata were alive today, he would exhort every Indian to think of a strategy, not jugaad, not tactic, but think of a strategy how India can replace the economic relationship with the United States. He was not the kind who would bitch or who would be grudgeful or who would say, oh my God, we are finished. He always found a better bypass to keep the heart ticking, as it were. So I think Ratan Tata, as he always did, he would find opportunities in any form of adversity, and this would be equally one of them. So he wouldn't be the person who'd be crying, oh my God, we are finished, blah, blah, blah. No. And that's, by the way, that's something, and I'm glad you've asked me this question, and through the amplification of this program, that's something that India and Indians should look forward to, including people in the government. That we can't be whinging and crying, because that's not going to change or help. You're dealing with a megalomaniac. You're dealing with a president who's slightly insane and who works for Trump Incorporated. He doesn't work for America. But you have to remember, the hopefulness lies in the fact that he'll be around for only about 3 years and 6 months.
It feels like a lifetime.
It does. It does.
No, but I mean, of course, Mr. Tata was complete opposite of that. A nation comes first, and that was his legacy as well. So this would be a time when he would
take the lead.
He would take the lead.
Yeah, but he would take the lead from a very soulfully intellectual standpoint. He would exhort, never force. He would never implore. He would just show you the way. And I think silently, if we just revisit his life, if we revisit what he stood for, the answers will all be there. Jiddu Krishnamurti famously said, he says, there are answers to every question. The trick is in asking the right question.
Absolutely. I hope I asked you a bunch of right questions.
You asked me
today.
Excellent questions, and I'm not saying this, but I'm glad we had this conversation, not because for any other reason. The young of our country need aspirational icons, but they also need icons who are easily translatable. And Ratan Tata straddled both the worlds. While he was an icon, you can easily follow him. If you listen to your heart, do the right thing, and stand by what's right.
So simple. And,
Yeah.
and you saw that, right? Like you were mentioning earlier, he could speak to anyone.
Anyone.
Your daughter, global
Anyone.
leaders. I wonder how his conversations with Trump would have gone. He's met Mr. Trump?
I'm sure he has. But I'm certain if he had met Mr. Trump, he would be the great listener that he is. And then what I would wait for is the mimicry session post that.
I was thinking exactly that.
Yeah,
I was thinking
but sadly,
exactly
that's
that.
not to be.
What about his relationship with Indian politicians?
He loved Modi, and Modi loved him. And I must say, hats off to Modi. It was September 2008. In fact, I've even written about it just after the meeting, because otherwise people will say, oh, you're bullshitting. And I was having dinner with the then Chief Minister, now Prime Minister, in Gandhinagar. And he asked me, to Suhel bhai, कहाँ जा रहे हैं? I said, Bombay. टाटा साहब को मिलेंगे? I said, शायद. उनको बोलिए जब पारसीज गुजरात आए, जब पारसीज इंडिया आए थे ना, वो नवसारी में आए थे. I said, fine. तो नैनो यहां ही ले आइए. Next evening I told R&T. He says, oh, did he say that? I said, yeah. And then I wrote about it in a business newspaper. And then that's how the nano went to Sanat. And in that conversation on CNBC between him and me, he recollects that, where he says that the Prime Minister gave us a home and he's good for the country. And let me tell you, the outpouring of grief, you saw the Prime Minister's tweet. And it was genuine. The Home Minister, Amit Shah, in all the stuff that was going around, made it a point to fly down and be at NCPA, be at the funeral. They needn't have. You know, Rahul Gandhi condoled, Mrs. Gandhi condoled. He was one person who cut across ideologies, party lines, alliances or not. Chandrababu came to NCPA. I mean, you had the entire political universe, but you also had the common people. I still remember I was leaving NCPA and there's an old lady, must be about 70, 75, and she says, tell them to allow me in. I said, ma'am, it's overflowing. No. Every evening, I would wait for Ratan when he was walking the dogs at US Club. I mean, where are people's relationships? I mean, there was an instance on Marine Drive where R&D would always drive slowly. You know, he would drive to... I still remember one taxi driver, and he would always drive, you know, his was a left-wheel drive. And since he was driving slowly, I still remember one taxi driver coming from the side abusing. Kaise gaadi chalata hai, kaise gaadi? All R&D did was smile and kept moving.
What a man. Just
Unbelievable.
amazing, amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much.